astray, caught up in the games they play. High-speed chases gone awry, serious turns into pie in the sky. Just out of jurisdiction, laughter and a conviction. Beneath the badge and misguided fiction.
Out there. So, we're having it. For us, it's like being in the 30s and just listening to the radio. Mm-hmm. We don't get any moving pictures with what's going on. So, listening to the podcast has just been, for me, it's been reminiscent of, hey, how'd that call shake out? You know?
I know.
Yeah. And y'all, well, I mean, we'd come up there and you got to hear the end.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part.
But you're lucky because we liked you. Because I like to leave people hanging that I didn't be like, I ain't talking to them. Or
I don't know. We had a pretty good night shift dispatch crew for a while. Everybody was pretty good.
So I think, let me get this straight. We knew each other from CrossFitting.
Yes.
I remember, I was telling him, I said, I knew you'd applied. And I was sitting in the detective's office. And I saw you walk by for the interview because they did it over in our side. And I pulled Larry or whoever's interviewing, Mike, I don't know. It's like, hire that dude, man. So that dude is a good dude. So you're welcome.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
One of my favorites.
Whichever's most appropriate.
I honestly hated to see you go because you had that level of sarcasm that was so
perfect.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to get too excitable, but, just bring enough levity to what's going on.
The good news is he came to day shift from us. So it was me and Ryan Jackson for a while, me and Roby, and gosh, who all was it? Ben? Was he on there? And Dylan. A lot of times, Dylan Blair. And whoever else was, whoever else came around to our day shift. Like when Ryan went to the detective's office, I think Roby became the sergeant. And gosh, who was it? Ben? Dylan? Maybe?
Was Ben off PTO then?
Yeah. This was I was a lieutenant. So it was like right before
that was during the Web 28 days or Web 47 or whatever it was logged in dispatch.
Gosh, I was trying to remember that shift. It was a good shift. My last act before I went up to the chief office was I was getting there. I just had got assigned Blake Evans to train. Randy's like, here, it's like the check rides, or he only had like a couple weeks left. I think I rode around with him for that day. I was like, I didn't have any judgment. Then the next day, I was like, Chief, what do I do with this idiot?
Now he's my problem.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Well, you ready?
Always.
All right.
So we got. I like to do at least an hour and a half. So you got to lead it because we've all got stories, but this will be a different one for me because I'm because I've never. Dispatch is a different world, so I'm ready.
It is. It's a little bit different, but it's always hand in hand with what you guys are doing. So.
It starts with you.
All
right, let's do it.
All right, guys. Back with another episode.
Oh, heck, you were recording anyway.
Oh, yeah. I've been recording.
He does that stuff, and I forgot.
Do you never listen to these episodes back?
No, but I never see him reach over there and turn
it starts at least 2 minutes before the welcome.
That's what people love, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
But, anyways, tonight we've got a little different episode with you. We've got... we're always talking about first responders, and there's a big debate out that that dispatchers aren't first responders, but I would argue that they are the first responder for most things. I've got a lot of respect for them. Got to work with a lot of them, and who we have with us, I've got a lot of respect for him. Probably one of the best dispatchers that I ever was on the other side of the radio of. And without further ado, Mr. Shannon Kane is here.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
It's exciting because we've worked a lot of shifts together. Knew each other before a little bit, and just worked out together. Then you were hired, then went to night shift, and forgot you. I was like, oh, because this is when I was on day shift, and then. But how many years did you How long have you been serving in that capacity?
I've been I did full time for almost 6 years. And then I've been PRN. I started back about mid-year this past year. So
I see. He knew that I wasn't going to be there anymore, so he
came back. He's like, hey, well, listen to this shenanigans.
Actually, I knew you were going, so I might as well leave.
Yeah,
it's not going to be fun anymore.
That's different.
Shannon's the only one that appreciated my one more Gens.
If you walk into our dispatch center, I don't know how much. Every little elementary school seems like tours on them.
Oh yeah.
They walk in, but it's got like this vibe about it. It's like a dungeon, but yet surrounded with computers. It's like everybody's got their workstation. There's like 72 monitors up. Feels like. Which they got the cool things where they go up and down, the monitors do, and you can stand. Because those days and nights get long. We had some good times in there. Yeah. I remember one time, I don't know if you was working days or not, but I shut down basically everything. I walked in there. We had a big situation going on in Corbin, a murder, or they found somebody. Sheriff's office was down there, and I'd sent guys down there to assist. And little did I know, I was positive for the COVIDs.
Yeah, you did spread COVID throughout the entire
I was
PD.
patient zero.
Yes, absolutely.
At dispatch and the London PD and whoever else came in contact.
We appreciate that.
You're welcome. But that was me. But it's a different world. Police and fire and everybody that goes to calls totally relies on everything that you're giving out. Mm. And what a huge responsibility it is.
It is. I mean, it's one that if you do this for a minute and you halfway at all care about what you're doing, you don't take that lightly. You don't sit and stew over it, obviously, because you don't have time to. You'll take a devastator and be trying to get everybody where they need to go. And then, 5 minutes later, you got somebody calling and wanting to know what time the chicken fair's starting.
Yeah.
So I mean, the next call is coming no matter how you feel about the last call. Yeah. And it's always, it's always one of those things where you want to, you just don't get to sit in it long. You give it the attention that it needs, and then you have to move on to the next thing.
One thing I tried to always do is thank you guys after a call, after a situation. I tried my best, and it didn't always work out that way. But all the dispatchers, thank you for every time you guided us in. You kept us out of probably some bad situations and let us know, hey, this got a weapon, whatever. Yeah, it was just but you all don't always see the outcome of what we saw, and the solution or the whatever happened.
Resolution
the
whatever,
resolution, that'd be the better. And it's tough when you're like, man, I sent these guys. And I know, and a lot of times I think about, you're like, did you guys have the this hot washes or the after action report, where you can sit and talk about it and get it off your chest? But you all we're on to the next call, and it may be an emergency call for the county or something that didn't involve us, where we could take a minute and be like, okay, let's decompress here. Let's talk about this. Talk about your feelings type stuff. And, you forget about that sometimes. And I know some of the worst incidents ever, you are the ones making that phone call to me. And, and geez, Pete, that's tough. That's tough stuff. And I apologize personally. I apologize for maybe not getting some of the mental health things that I got for the police that probably should have called it over there to you all and be like, hey, by the way, these guys were the ones that took those calls.
There never was a whole lot of that, available to us overtly. There might be a flyer sitting around somewhere saying, if you need somebody to talk to or whatever. So, basically the dark humor, kind of kicks in and that's, and people can feel how they want to feel about that. And I understand that, but until you sit in that seat and you hear the things that you hear and you deal with things that you deal with, you can't really appreciate the level of the strength of that coping mechanism to be able to laugh that off, and is it always appropriate? Probably not, but no. It's a whole lot better than a lot of the alternatives.
And I would argue that if you don't adapt to that coping mechanism, that you don't make it very long in that field of any type, whether it be fire, rescue, police, dispatch. I mean, it'd eat away at you, and you'd never survive.
And it becomes our own love language. With one another.
Yeah. If you could, and that's the same way with us. The cutting up, and there's a time for it, definitely, and most of the time it was for it because we were just trying to work through our own whatever's going on in our head.
And even with that, I mean, there's been many times that my wife would hear me talking to some of the guys that I worked with, and she'd be like, "If that's how you talk to your friends, I'd hate to hear you talk to your enemy." But. That's what I said. It would be nothing to call somebody up and be like, "What are you doing, douchebag?" And then it's all insults, but none of it's meant. And if I wasn't insulting you, it meant that I either didn't respect you or didn't like you.
So, if I wasn't cutting on you, then I probably didn't like you very much.
You didn't cut on me, man. I'm just
kidding. You had too many bars for me to cut on you too much by the time I got there.
You got to be careful if you cut on somebody with straps.
When Shannon came to day shift, I was on day shift at this time working. My favorite was working Saturday, Sunday. It was usually a little slower, and I had a good crew. Great crew at the police department, and then I had a great crew in dispatch. Well, we shared the building. So we go up there, and I don't know. I mean, y'all had the cool ice machine at the time.
Yeah.
So I was always up there getting ice.
I do remember that.
And they would make popcorn.
Yes.
That popcorn up there, and it was just a time for us to all be together, and it was good. I think that partnership, when you can sit and cut up and cut on each other, is so good for our souls. And to see who you are, see how your staff were with with the police department. We okay, the call come in, we go, then we try to get back there when we could. Yeah. But we watched plenty of Sunday movies.
Well, and that's good for another aspect also, because you end up learning each other. So when you do hear me say something over the radio, or you know what I'm trying to say, what I mean, and you're not going to take something that I say to offense, or that I'm, or if I say something and I'm, in the middle of grandma cussing me and it comes over a little crass over the radio.
That's out of character. Right.
But the cool thing is, we had a relationship where I'd come back in and be like, "Hey, my bad.
Right.
This is what was going on."
Yeah. I tried to do that.
So that was but that was some of my favorite time. When I went to that, we was working those 12-hour shifts. So it was every other weekend we'd work together. Yeah. So it was a blast. We had a good time. A lot of fun.
We never had to call you over because the popcorn scent just kind of wafted over that.
Well, I mean, so dispatch was kind of the hangout anyways. We didn't want to hang out in the PD. We wanted to hang out in dispatch. But
especially on the weekends. And I know there was people that frowned on that somewhat because we didn't want to distract you guys.
People frowning on stuff.
But they had an oven, and they were there.
Hey,
and
that's true.
Some of the greatest food ever made.
Crock pots and...
Well, I mean, breakfast up there was like...
some awesome breakfast. But I do want to, last episode, Chief made the comment that he never really yelled.
Who, Derek?
Derek. And
he's trying to come across
I know
nice.
he's trying to come across as a nice guy. But I had to insert one correction there, and it had to do with food, and it had to do with Timmy.
Yeah, Timmy's a good cook.
He great cook, loved to cook up there. You know, that was his thing. And he had brought in some fish and stuck it in the microwave and was warming it up.
Oh no!
And just as that popcorn, that luscious popcorn scent would waft over your all's way.
Oh, yeah.
So did the stinky fish.
Apparently, so did the stinky fish. Well, Derek comes busting into the dispatch center, which is right in the middle of the kitchen.
Yeah.
The access, and he starts cussing about this fish cooking. Well, Timmy thought that he was joking, so he kind of cracks back at him. Now, we all know how well Derek likes to be talked back to.
Yes.
And so that escalated quickly, and Timmy realized quickly that this wasn't going to go how he thought it was going to go. So, yeah, that came with a lot of air freshener and a big apology. So
I can't ever say I've been. I have been frustrated, and I apologize. Jamie, he caught the brunt of something. I think we got told to. There was some stuff going on, major stuff, but I had guys out on domestic, and I was trying to hear if they were okay. It was maybe a weapons involved. So we got told to hush our radio traffic by a dispatcher, and I didn't think it was time or appropriate with us being out on a major, a call that could be volatile. And I went in, and Jamie caught absolutely. He had nothing to do with it, but he caught. I was like, who's supervising? One of them deals. And apparently there was a supervisor, but he just kind of took it. He's like, what is that? So step out in the hall. And I just lost it. And he's still mad at me to this day, I think. But he was standing there like, what did I do? I was like, okay. And then, I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I was just real frustrated. I was worried about the guys, and I think it wasn't even him. He had nothing to do with it. He had just walked in for his shift. But he was a senior guy there. And I loaded. So emotions run high on hot calls too.
They do.
And since then, of course, we're okay. We golf together. I think I even hired him over at the PD. So you're welcome. I made it up to you, or I screwed everybody else up over there. I don't know.
With that being said, that kind of brings a point that dispatch kind of gets to hear some of our firsts too over the radio when our anxiety and stuff's hitting high. Like, I can't remember who was working my first pursuit, but I'm sure it was comical on the other side.
Oh yeah, I mean, people don't realize how much tone of voice sets the tone for those exchanges.
Oh, gosh.
There's one guy, and I won't mention his name because he's still working down at the SO, and he could key up and call 10-8 and make you think that the house was on fire.
Oh yeah,
just by the way that
the urgency. And,
and that's one of those things that we always tried to make sure and regulate. And Richie used to tease me that I could give out an alarm or a shots fired call, and he'd have to stop and listen to see which one it was because
is this hot or is it? And that's good to stay chill. Yeah. And that way you're articulating what's going on. But there is something about when a dispatcher that's usually chill
gets amped up.
Yeah. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You're like, and the thing that we always have to be, and there were a lot of good, really good dispatchers before me that, taught me this, was that, we set the tone in the way in which we give out the call. So if I'm all excited and carried away and I give you guys a call, you guys are already on 9. Mm-hmm. then all of a sudden you go to 11 when you hear me.
Right.
And, you know, if I'm not regulating that, so I don't want to send you out already over revving before you ever get there.
Well, I swear when I first started, there was people that like to just make you that way. I'm like, I go into a call, what's going on? But, you know, that's a dangerous game that we play, you know, that's there of you giving you're listening to people call in. Like I called in the other day on emergency. I had something going on and I called in. And I'm like, this is what I got. You know, after I took the breath, I was like, okay, I got to remember how to, you know, I was panicking. It's like, hey, here's what I got. Here's my address. And they were like, okay. I was like, 40 minutes later, that ambulance hadn't got there yet. Mm-hmm. And of course, the dispatcher's going to catch all my frustrations of like, where is this ambulance at? Yeah. So I called back. Where are we at? Oh, they had to come from Corbin. And I'm like, and I'm like, don't you know who I am? That kind of bullcrap. Like I'm somebody. Yeah. But it was just like, you can't control what you can't control. You're doing your job of saying, hey, here's where the call's at. And you're at the mercy of that responding officer. Yeah. And the people calling or officer or first responder. And you're at the mercy and you're at of whatever's going on with that situation, but you're also hearing the brunt of somebody that's upset because usually if they're calling, it's their worst day. Oh yeah. And that's hard for all of us who's, all three of us sitting here and every first responder. I think we have answered so many calls for service. I don't know how many parking lot wrecks I've worked or how many fender benders on the highway. It becomes routine. Mm. And yet the person we're dealing with, that's their very first accident they've ever had. Oh yeah. So that empathy and that's, we lose that sometimes and we being able to regulate that to like, hey, it's okay, honey. We're here for you. Oh, that's a tough job. Especially, and I know how many calls you got every day. And you could go from the worst thing in the world to, like you said, like, can you have an officer come over and help me turn on my pilot light on my hot water heater? Yeah. I mean, those can be back-to-back calls. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy to me. You can, around here, especially with the interstate, you can kind of gauge the seriousness of the call, the legitimate seriousness of the call by how many calls you're receiving. Right. Because if, we'll get a call that somebody's gotten on the wrong way, on the interstate. They've went down the wrong ramp, the wrong way. And if you get one call on that, those ramps are long enough that they figured it out. If you've only gotten that one call, they figured it out and they got it turned around. And we're still going to send somebody out there just to make sure. Yeah. But now if we start getting call after call after call after call and it's just lighting it up like a Christmas tree, then they made it to the interstate and they're still going the wrong way. Yeah.
And on the other side of that, the same works because you all know that and we've learned that as well. If we go 97 on something, but, we're unable to find it, we'll, a lot of times we'd holler back and say, hey, how many calls have you had on this? Yeah. And if you reply, one, okay. All right, 98 UTL, So,
and there's been so many times we know they're not getting a lot of calls, but you have to respond. That's the duty of
you're going to do your due diligence to try and find it.
And I would get frustrated. I ain't gonna lie, I'd get frustrated. Like, why did they give that call to us? And I get it. I get it now, especially when I went into more administration. It's not. It's out probably in your policies and procedures. Give the call out.
Yeah, you can't hold them.
But also, what if?
There's that what if. Because you hold one, you're like, that's silly. Mm-hmm. That could be a disaster. And exactly. And the dispatch didn't give it out.
Because there's been many times that we've been sent to stuff that we were like, this is nothing. Yeah. This is going to be a bullcrap. And it turned out to be
the worst thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. There's a few exceptions to that high call volume rule. Mm-hmm. One of which Of course, with the interstate, like I said, if you start getting a bunch of calls, something's up.
Yeah.
And we started getting this call, a series of calls, probably starting down around the way station heading north, about this couple in this car. And the way everybody's describing it, and multiple people are describing it much the same way, it's a rolling domestic.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's riding down the road. He's beating on this woman. She's, flailing around and beating back and trying to defend herself. And the difficult part for us is, and we all know this because we've been there and worked it, that getting somebody to the interstate to be able to intercept at the interstate speed and everything
Something
like that.
That's moving.
It's difficult
to figure out who to call.
Right. So we get this call. I give it out. And like I said, they're coming north, heading toward the 38. And just so happens, I mean, everything lines up perfect. C unit gets on the ramp there. They see the car go by about halfway down the ramp. They get up right behind it, light it up. It pulls over. And I'm like, I'm feeling like the king of the world. Yeah. Because that just never happened. Nailed this. Yeah. Totally intercepted this one. And that's such a rarity. And so I'm sitting there and finally, I can't remember who it was that answered the call, and they get back on the radio and they say, London, this isn't going to be a domestic at all. Really? What's happened?
It's one of them 10-4 call dispatch type deal.
Yeah. And, so it turns out that this couple both of them were hearing impaired.
Oh.
And they were having a spirited conversation as they were going down the road.
Hey, listen.
But everybody that saw it was convinced that they were just beating the brakes off one another.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how, and when you deal with the public, and and they're not wrong to call, but perception is a lot. They
working up at the deaf school, you see, they could be loud or they could be very quiet. And the difference is they could sign across who knows? They can sign across long way where we couldn't even talk. But it was funny when they was trying to hide stuff, though. It was funny. That's different, but it's sadly some of the worst, and this probably isn't right. If you had, domestic, I have worked domestics with deaf or hard of hearing, and they would be at it. And sadly, I just turn them around and try, just so they wouldn't. Yeah. They if they were looking at each other, they were engaging. I was like, just turn around. It was, I don't know if that's the right way.
Well, you're supposed to separate the parties, so you did. Yeah.
And it was at Walmart, and it was causing big fuss. And I was like, you face me, and you face that way. Yeah. Not you had to turn them. It was different, but yeah.
Walmart is just one of those places where so many goofy calls start.
Oh yeah.
At Walmart.
I remember going there one time, getting a call on a shoplifter, walking in there, talking to somebody, and finding like a half ounce of meth on the shelf. And they're like, I was like, is this yours? They're like, no. I said, you can get anything at Walmart, including a half ounce of methamphetamines on the in the toy aisle. I was like, weird stuff, man.
One of my favorite Walmart calls, though, still involves Flash and the lady that tased herself on the way out to the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh?
You and Roby were in on that one.
That was the pursuit. That was a
pursuit that went all the way up to EB.
Yeah.
And so this
you finally got in a pursuit.
That was my first pursuit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I got to work it. I got the privilege of working this very first pursuit.
So we got over there. It's just a normal shoplifter call. We get talking to loss prevention, which are usually, they're usually pretty good at their jobs there. They know, we've got a rapport. What they say is usually pretty accurate. So they come out and they're like, she tried to tase us and she's running that way. So I take off towards the car. I get to her car and she's just getting in the car. Well, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to rip her out of this car. I don't get a chance. She just pulls out. So I was like, well, she sparked a taser at him. And that was at the time that we had just changed to that policy where you had to have felony. I said, robbery. So, it constitutes.
Yeah,
I holler at
I've had-
Roby, and Roby's like, I was like, you want me to pursue? You want me to back off? But she's not stopping. And he's like, yeah, hammer on. So we get after it and and it turns out to a mess. I mean, this poor woman, and I feel sorry the most for her son, because when we pursue her all the way out to her house in EB, and I mean, we come to an abrupt stop, and then she's met with me and Roby with weapons drawn, yelling, screaming. You know how it goes with. I'm sure there was things said that probably shouldn't have been said in front of it.
That your mother would not
No,
appreciate.
yeah, she'd be coming at me with bar soap, but, And then we look over and there's an 8-year-old out on the porch. So, and that's not a good representation of of seeing, but that wasn't her first rodeo either.
Yeah. Yeah.
But from the other side of it, I'm sure I got all happy, stop in pursuit.
But now the great thing, and the thing that he's failing to tell you is that what she was there to shoplift that day were the makings of a birthday party for her kid.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So when Flash finds this out and sees what's going on, he offers to pay for the stuff that she took that was going to be for this kid's birthday party. You remember their response?
I can't remember what it was.
They basically told you to get bent.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I do remember the birthday cake though, because it was part of when we had searched the vehicle.
I wonder if I know there's been many times we'd have somebody stranded here in London, like legit stranded, trying to get home, just could not afford that bus ticket or whatever. That's untelling how much money we've. And it's not a brag or anything. We just try to help. Honestly, people knew how you guys up there. We'd come over there and be like, man, anybody got any? Oh, we'll help you out on this. It was always it was a team.
Yeah.
We were
and anybody that's in it for the right reasons, doing this type of profession, is going to have that kind of mentality. People always take it the wrong way when, it gets bent to where, you work for me, you're a public servant, but you are. I mean, and that's the whole, you're not a slave, but you are a servant in the fact that you're there to serve the community and try and better the community. So,
yeah.
You just want to try to be.
You want to make
your
a
best.
difference.
Yeah, that's all I didn't get into this line of work to take everybody to jail. I swear I didn't. And I didn't take that many, maybe a couple thousand.
Now, I enjoy taking people to jail that deserve going to
absolutely.
jail. Yeah,
but I think back, I'm like, in 20 years, if I averaged 20 a month, especially my first part, I'm like, man, I took a lot of people to jail. I really did.
Yeah.
And
some of that was my fault because, I would, if somebody was being particularly annoying or belligerent or something like that, I would scour the earth to find a warrant that had their name on
we
it.
appreciate that. How many people call and just harass? I remember y'all getting, we'd be in there and somebody just call and just giving you all down the road. I couldn't stand that. I was like, how do y'all
listen?
The patience that y'all have. And then
Christmas in dispatch looks like this. The caller has a warrant. That's Christmas in dispatch.
Yeah.
When somebody's calling and they're running their mouth and they're being belligerent, they're not asking for help. They're demanding that you do what they want you to do. And there's a big difference. If somebody needs assistance and they're needing help, you want to get them help.
Absolutely.
But if somebody's mad at their boyfriend and they're just wanting him out of the house and they're wanting you to come clean it, take the trash out for them and they're being belligerent about it, then that's a whole different matter. So, like I said, I became very adept at finding those 8-year-old traffic warrants for FDA.
There was two times in my career that I got to step in and and change the outcome of situations like that. There was one, it was me. I was on night shift then. I think it was me and Jake and somebody else. I can't remember. But this woman kept calling in. And I don't know if you were working dispatch that night or not. But she kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. And we'd go out there to the call. She wouldn't come to the door. So we finally talked to her on the phone and told her if she called back that she'd be going to jail for harassing communications. Well, she called back. So we load up and we go. Can't get her to come to the door. So we have to call the landlord. The landlord calls her and tells her that he needs to get in. So he tricked her. He's not even there. She opens the door and Jake just snatches her up, just seals the door, and was just straight to jail.
That's fun times.
Yeah.
That's I think. I know. You've had some of the tough calls, but I want to get into some of the funniest, craziest, fun calls that you've ever had.
Well,
because we try to keep it funny.
Yeah.
I know we're a little serious tonight, but it's the appreciation I have for dispatch.
Yeah.
On those hard calls is I just wanted to thank you all, and you're representing it tonight. I know we plan on having some other dispatchers on, but definitely wanted to say thank you and all that. But.
Well, I can say that, for me, some of the funnier ones came as a result of the fact that, I was a lot older when I came to emergency services than most guys are. So most folks, are coming right out of high school or, something like that pretty early on and haven't had a lot of life experience.
Right.
I think I was 45 when I came to work at dispatch. So, I've been around, had 4 kids at that time, had a couple of them halfway raised and, had seen a few things and had some life experience. So, you don't come like, what do I do with this with everything? We had, one more, some of the most, and people don't believe me when I tell this, but, people are calling all the time for us to send out the police to make their kids mind.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah, all the time. My kid's talking back. My kid won't listen to him. My kid won't get up and go to school. And, you just get those calls all the time. I just want them to come out here and scare them. And I'm like, that's not what we do. I mean, do you want them to go to Breathitt County? We can arrange that. But
you can't even arrange that until they're a certain age.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I get this call one morning, and it's just absolutely pouring the rain. And this lady calls in, and it's fairly early in the morning, probably about 6:30, 6:45. So right at the beginning of our shift, and she's wanting us to send an officer out or deputy out, had been out in the county. And, I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, her son is in middle school age and he doesn't want to take a shower to get ready to go to school. And he's throwing a fit and he's throwing himself a little tantrum and he's ran outside. Well, she locked him out on the, outside. Well, by this time it's coming to gully washer. And, she's like, well, what do I do? He's beating on the door. Should I let him in? I said, I'd throw him a bar of soap out and then I'd let him in. Give him about 10 or 15 minutes and then let him in.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And because it's those rare moments that you actually get to say what you want to say.
I know.
There's so many of those calls that we get where you want to say certain things and you just can't. So you have to be as diplomatic as you can be about it and move on. But on one like that, I'm like, just throw him a bar of soap and let him lather it up out there.
I would call Stuart, Derek, and Daryl. I'd come or whoever assistant chief was or whoever. If I saw them, I'd be like, hey, if you get a call and they say I said that, I did. So I ain't gonna lie. I was like, if it was off the wall, something crazy, I'd be like, yep, I did say it. So
And
Just FYI.
And that was kind of our,
I ain't gonna lie about it.
I know for myself that was always kind of my philosophy on it too. If somebody calls in and complains, this is what happened. If they don't call in, don't look any further into it.
Yeah.
That was
right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that was the thing. I was like, I'll take my punishment if they call, but here's what it was said, and I promise you, I said it. So
they didn't even ask. They didn't even ask me if I said it. They just knew I did. They could ask.
Probably wrote a memo about it.
I had one that, and she, this lady was being like really genuine. She was just at her wit's end because she had this probably 2-year-old, maybe 3-year-old, who was in a forward-facing car seat, and he had figured out how to work the little tension release button at the bottom of the car seat.
Oh, yeah.
So he could get himself out of the thing.
Yeah.
So she's afraid, one, that somebody's going to call in on her for having an unrestrained child because he's gotten himself out.
Oh, yeah.
And two, that he's going to get hurt, but she's like, I just don't know what to do. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, set that at tension where he can't get out, where it's as tight as it needs to be. And then that slack at the end of it, tie that in a knot. I said, because when he pushes that button and tries to push out on his strap, it won't release. Right. She's like, I never thought of that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You gotta be,
but it's like I said, it's things like that, little things like that.
It's being able to give that outside.
Yeah.
You're not stressed about it, so you're not, you're able to think outside the box.
You can detach and be able to insert some wisdom into people that are like, just some people are just dumb. But some people are just
and some of them are just so frustrated and they're so in, when you're in the middle of things that are going on like that, it's hard to think clearly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we try to do is bring clarity to a situation that somebody else is struggling to do, do that same thing on their own.
Yeah.
One of the better ones that I had talking about trying to bring clarity in the middle of a, crazy situation. There was a lady that had bought this car. I believe it was a Toyota, but don't quote me on that. But she had bought it and the accelerator was sticking on her. Well, the dealership, I think, was in Richmond. And she said, well, and the dealership told her, said, well, if you get it up here, we'll take a look at it, kind of thing, just kind of blowing her off, being jerks about it. So she gets up, her and a couple of friends of hers, they're going up north on 75. They get up probably about the 45 accelerator sticks, and it will not, it's not. And of course, in these newer model cars, you don't have the old cable driven accelerator anymore. You've got sensors. Mm-hmm. So this sensor's bad. And it's holding her wide open, and she's calling and she's freaking out and panicking. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to get run over. Somebody's going to get killed. And I said, okay. I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, put on your hazard lights. And I said, I want you to work over into the right lane, into the slow lane. And so she's with me so far. I'm talking to her about like I'm talking to you guys right now. I said, I want you to work over into the right hand lane. And I said, have you done that? She said, yeah, I'm over here. And I said, okay. I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, when I tell you, I want you to shift your vehicle into neutral and then apply your brake and ease over onto the shoulder. And she's like, no, well, that won't work. This is, So I'm like, listen, this will work.
Yeah, they'll shift out.
It'll shift out. It'll get you in neutral, and then you can kill it. You can turn the motor off and then coast to a stop. You can apply the brake, coast to a stop. So she's trying to work herself up to it. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, we're going to have to do this because you're going to get out of my range here pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I said, in order for me to talk you through this, we need to do this now. Because, once they cross that, I don't know what the magic is, but once they cross that bridge there about the 50 and a half going north, cell service just goes away.
Oh, yeah.
And so, or at least the service, the repeater that comes back to us. So she finally, she's worked herself up to it. And I said, okay, are you ready? She said, yes. I said, okay, shift it into neutral. Okay, got it into neutral. I said, okay, now turn the ignition off. Turns the ignition off. And I hear, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be bad.
She's gone off the bridge.
This is going to be bad. And then finally she stops screaming and goes, it worked.
You think she's...
I've got what seemed like, 60 to 120 seconds of this. I'm planning my own exit on how this is all going to go down, what I'm going to say on the stand,
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever watched Bob's Burgers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's an episode where he's trying to teach his daughter how to drive, and they're driving through an open parking lot.
With one car.
With one car in it. And they're like 100 yards away. And she's going, and he's like, okay, you can turn. Turn. And they're 50 yards at turn. You can, and she just finally just, bow. So, it's that situation right there.
I couldn't imagine, because you must have been close to the big, that bridge is high.
Yeah.
So my first thought was like, she's off. You're hearing her going off.
And again, that goes back to that old, 1930s sitting by the radio with no moving pictures. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea where she actually is. I can see in general because I've still got her on the 911 line. So it's continuing to ping, but it only cycles every so often. So knowing exactly where I don't have a moving dot.
Oh, man. You know what's weird? We could be sitting in a dispatch center. The three of us, or say you had 3 guys working, 3 guys, girls, and the PD was up there, and all of a sudden the call would come in. The next thing you know, somebody's getting out a book. Okay, here's how to deliver that baby. And while we're just sitting there all calm and cool, we're like, what is going on? This one's having a baby they can't get to the hospital. They're in the baby. I'm like,
or having to tell somebody to
it's cool
to do
and it's calm. Or telling somebody how to do CPR. I don't know how many times that's happened while we're in there. Just calm, like y'all done it 1,000 times, and probably had a lot of them had. I'm like, man, you should have saw me the first time I did CPR. I'm like, for real. I'm like, this ain't the practice dummy.
We quit letting Joey do CPR. He was like 0 for 4 there for a little while. I was like,
bless his heart.
Quit touching these people.
But I think he finally got back.
He did get one. Yeah.
But it's tough, man. That's just because you can't perform it, you're having to talk to somebody who's in a absolute panic.
Yeah.
On doing life-saving stuff.
Trying to calm them down and talk them through that. And it's always difficult. And then, some of and I know this isn't the lighter side of things, but, some of the more difficult calls that we have to make in those instances are the ones where we know that the patient is not going to respond to CPR. But the family member is so distraught that if we don't give them some hope until EMS can get there, that, we're going to lose them.
Right.
We're going to lose the caller, that they're just going to have so if you can give somebody at least the sense that they did all that they could do. There's some closure there, and people don't think about this, but there's some closure there that we can give to folks just by doing something like that.
Yeah, I've never thought about that because
and there's been
people want, there's some sadness there. There's some grief that's going on. There's some panic.
Well, there even though a lot of blaming yourself, you were there and you tried to do something, or you couldn't do something. And if you know that you tried,
right,
and you did all that you could do, somebody's walking you through it. You can, most folks can live with that, and that's kind of the attitude that we take toward it is that we'll spend the time and we'll stay there with them and do that until emergency services can get there to give them that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
I'll say we had an incident a while back with my daughter, and I won't say which dispatcher it was, but she deserves kudos because she done excellent. But my daughter has seizures, and she was eating and had gotten choked, had a seizure, got choked. We didn't catch it immediately. Turned around and she was purple. I mean, not breathing, lifeless, face down on her. I mean, it's awful. Worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. I've seen fatalities, gunshots. I mean, just, that was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. So I've got her doing what I was trained to do, to clear airways, clear pathways, getting ready. And I'm to the point where I'm getting ready to start doing CPR. And I had tasked my wife with calling 911, and she's hysterical. So I know and I'm hearing her in the back, and it's like everything that's coming out of her mouth. I was like, they can't understand you. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it's like they can't understand you. But somehow, whoever's on the other side of it, and I mean, I know who it was, but pieced it together and then got out got enough information to who I was, and then knew, from there. And then took it upon herself and they got an ambulance there quick. I think the cool. So it was that's awesome, and she's good. She's good now. Great, yeah. One
of the coolest. I think the dispatchers somehow can speak crazy. They can hear it, or they can speak panic. Yeah, they can. It's like a language that they developed, or they can understand. It's like learning Elfish or something, because I remember calling in on something in my neighborhood and absolutely could not, and everybody knows where I live. I could not get out my address or the road behind me, and the road well. Yeah, I could not think of that road. I'm like, just come to my house and keep going. You'll see somebody out there waving, and they were like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" It's just one of them.
I know the call you're talking about.
Yeah,
and that was a devastator too.
Yeah, because I was sitting there on a day off and thought I'd locked the door, and somebody just walked in on me, and I was like, "What?" And he's like, and I'm like, "What?" So I went in. I was seriously sitting down to eat like a sandwich. So I was at a zero.
You were at black.
I was in condition. I was nothing. Like, I'm happy as a lark, just sitting here getting ready to eat lunch and getting ready to watch a baseball game or something was on, to having to go sprinting down out of my road and trying to call. I'm like, what am I? How? I mean, I'd done this at this point probably 19 years and couldn't get out for who I was or where I lived. And people are like, finally, as soon as I said my name, they was, okay, yeah, what happened? I'm like, it was freaked out. I just went into pure freak out.
Well, it's different. It's different when it happens to you. Yeah. It's you can deal with somebody else's emergency all day long and as calm as you can be. But
and that's the thing that my wife said. She's been a nurse for years, and back in July of 2009, I'd had a incident at home. It was before we ever moved to London, and my airway had gotten obstructed in my sleep, and I was out. I was gone.
Wow.
And she was doing what she could do, calling 911. We're there by ourselves. The kids had spent the night with the family member and stuff. And she's told people on the backside of that, she said, that all of her nursing, when it was hers, went out the window. It just, and I think that's the thing, is that, we can be calm, cool, and collected on anybody else's behalf sometimes but our own.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our incident, it took me a minute to be like, okay, what do I do? Well, what do I do? What do I do? And then there's a moment of panic, and then
there it is.
You've got to overcome that to get
scary when it's your own.
And that's where training comes in. But still, there's still that moment of panic and time,
Yeah. That's like, I couldn't imagine dispatching during the tornadoes that happened in East Bernstead.
Yeah.
And I was in them. I was up in East Bernstead at my mom and dad's, and heard it, me and my dad was like, you know, the lights flickered. I mean, it sounded like exactly like a train, you know, freight train coming. You're like, whoa. And then we just got a flicker and we went outside. I was like, huh? You know, went on up the road. I couldn't imagine, though, dispatching the chaos that was going on in that moment because, you know, you set up your command center, I think was at East Burnstead Fire at the time, and they were all victims of this. I was like, how does that work? Why can't we use somebody else? Or, you know, it's just weird. The thought pattern is like, man, half the guys that are on this, that are setting up command or involved are victims. I'm like, man, that's a freaky feeling when you're.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I'll argue all day long with anybody on this that the folks that we've had over the last several years, moreover at the dispatch center here, are some of the best anywhere.
Oh yeah.
You know, professional.
I would agree with that.
And you know, and I'm not saying we're like every agency. We never bat 1,000, but we've done pretty well. Yeah. And you know, probably above average, I would say for especially for our area. And that's just who they are. They're professional. When it's time to hit the radios and hit the phones, man, you wouldn't. There's nobody else that you'd want beside you.
It is amazing to see the flip from chilling out because there is especially on night shift, there was a weird boredom, and day shift on the weekend. You know, Sunday mornings were fun for us because we was up there cutting up and you know, somebody's cooking, Timmy or Shannon or somebody's cooking,
playing cards, doing something.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah. To
that, you know, I don't know how many. Remember there for a while, we got, you know, it was around Halloween. Somebody in there we'd watch the entire Halloween series or Friday the 13th or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, over a month or two, whatever it was. But it was just like, all of a sudden that call would come out and a switch, boom. And I'm sure we do it too. But you go from, and it's training. Yeah. It's and knowing knowing what's going on. And then the teamwork, because somebody, and I don't know how, because I tried to listen to how y'all hear each other. I don't know if it's through the headphone. I don't know how. But you could hear somebody with your headphones on doing something, and you're like, I got it. And I'm like, that amazed me. Yeah. Because you were doing something maybe on a different call, but could reach over and help that person by looking something up.
The amount of multitasking ability is impressive. We do it on the other side of the radio on a different way, but it's not that way. We're not.
I know my limitations.
Right. Yeah, I could never do dispatch.
I could never do it.
And for one, I don't have the patience.
I felt like I was a decent cop, but there's no way I could do it. I'm not. Subpar cop. Okay, but I could not. There's no way that I could do that on that side of the radio. I would want to go see the results for themselves, especially coming. And I knew guys, I mean, several guys, Gary, Goob, some of these other guys that would come in there and deal. I don't know, Patrick still would do a shift every now and then. I'm like, man, don't you want to just go out the door and go take care of that? Yeah. He's like, absolutely, I do. You know, but
and that's why they left that seat to go get behind the wheel.
But every now and then, you know, they pull a shift up there and hang out. So, yeah. What else you got? I know you got some other funny ones. Yeah. We can't be so serious on this. No. That's not our.
No, that's not our MO.
No. Speaking of one of those ones that, you know, you had to wait for the story, the visuals afterwards. So we're working nights. And there was a 46, single vehicle 46 in front of Cumberland Valley Bank right next to Circle K. Now, that is about the straightest piece of road that you could possibly be on.
Is this involving a minivan?
I can't remember what type of vehicle it was. But it does involve no pants and a sex toy.
I worked that one.
I thought you did.
Yep.
Yep.
I worked that one. That
So
one
we-
was.
How come you always end up with sex toys?
I have no idea. They followed me through my whole career.
weird.
And I'm the type of person that
Mine was always like a fist fight. He gets sex toys. That's weird.
if I got into a fight, it was somebody chasing me with. No, but and it's I don't know. I'm the type of person like I would never go into the Purple Palace to purchase anything. So why they followed me? I mean, it didn't. It's like a magnet. But
Because we're sitting there and we start getting calls and several calls, about this wreck. And of course, when somebody tells you, well, somebody's wrecked into the parking lot of the bank. Okay. And like I said, it's just straight and flat as a football field
Yes.
right through there. I mean, you would have to be trying to roll over a vehicle to roll one over there. But everybody, so my immediate thought is, okay, somebody's ran off the road, whatever, maybe hit the sign, what? And then it's like, no, we're getting, reports that this vehicle's on its top. And I'm like, okay, so we get everybody headed down that way. And of course, PD's not far away. So guys get there pretty quick, and probably before fire and EMS ever even had a chance to get on scene.
yeah,
And so there's a lot of radio silence, which is really weird for a call like this.
yes.
Usually
somebody on top there calling for like,
So-
hey, where's
I
We need
can
this
fill
one.
in the rest of that. So we get there and there's 2 telephone poles. I mean, this is an impressive wreck. There's 2 telephone poles, and like he said, it's a straight shot. But there's 2 telephone poles there, and somehow this woman has not only wrecked, but she has flipped her van completely over on its top, goalposted right between the two telephone poles. So we're like, we're rolling up and we've got the same thoughts as how in the world does somebody wreck like this? I mean, how does this even happen? And we get there and we can't find the driver. So we're getting out and we're walking around, and one of the other officers, we get to the other side and he goes, "What is that?" And I'm looking and we're just kind of standing beside each other. I mean, there's a female there and she's bent over.
oh no.
She has no pants on. And she's picking up stuff that had fallen out, cups and mugs and things that had fallen out of the van. She's okay. She's physically, visibly okay, that she's not hurt. But she doesn't have any pants on, doesn't have any undergarments on. And at first we thought, okay, maybe she just hadn't caught up to the grooming standards of the ages. But no, this woman had a tail that was protruding from a marital aid
Oh my gosh.
that was inserted.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we just kind of, and probably longer than we should have, we kind of just went, like a train wreck. I mean, it was just like, all right, I guess we'll go gather information now, so craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, we know why she wrecked, though.
Well, we can assume.
She got there. Right there.
Well, the conversations afterwards, you know how that goes. Our first thoughts was, and it was about the time that OnlyFans was getting popular. So we was like, yeah, that's probably
Probably watch that later.
not as good as you'd think.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy stuff.
I'd almost forgot about that one. That was
You tried. You tried to forget. Thank you for bringing that back up.
There's not enough bleach in the world to get
to
that.
completely erase that one. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Hilarious. I know you got something else.
thing-
what else?
yeah, the thing
There's
you
got to be
said.
something else. We can't end on that one.
Well, I mean, there was the Keystone Cops foot pursuit that I think started at Walmart, and this one was involving.
Wasn't me and Danny?
No, this one was Dylan and Joey and
Matt.
Matt may have ended up over there.
Boo, I think, might have been there on that one too.
Really? That
I think was he there? Was
he couldn't have been there with Joey?
no? I think
It may have been.
I think Spanky was there. Maybe or no?
Joey might have been at the sheriff's office. Maybe, I don't know. Let's hear this though.
But anyway, so we get typical shoplifter call there at Walmart. Well, apparently, as soon as they get 97 and get up there in the parking lot, this guy decides that he's going to take off over the hill and run up behind Tractor Supply. And of course, it's just a old, it's parking lot for a while, and then once you start up the hill, it's just a rough goat path kind of field back there, and there's a fence up there. Well, Dylan's kind of leading the charge on this foot pursuit, and he's running after this guy and trying to catch up with him. And I guess at one point he 46s out, takes a header, and the guy just starts giggling at him. He stops running so he can laugh at Dylan. Well, it makes Dylan mad. So he gets up. He's starting to run at him that much harder, and the guy gets. I think he's at this point he's at a straddle of that woven wire fence, and Dylan takes a header again, and the guy stops on top of the fence.
Oh my gosh!
And then they finally end up. Somebody came from the Whitley Street side, down that little cul-de-sac where they've got those lots for sale.
Yeah.
He was running up that way, and they ended up heading him off over there. But
that's classic.
And we had somebody, and I can't remember now who it was, that was, it was total Keystone Cops because, they're falling around and trying to get it. And somebody came around the corner there by the tobacco store where you go in behind the building, and went to get out of his cruiser and 46'd out on his own door.
Oh my God.
I remember hearing that story.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's good stuff.
I'm telling you, if we had recordings of just all the stupid things that ended up happening when because you're trying your hardest to get to your buddies fast, to get this, and then nothing ever. It's just comical.
I'd like to write. You're talking about your
my poop book. Yeah,
I could write a book. I could write probably an entire book on stuff that happened at Walmart.
Oh yeah,
just craziness that Walmart brings. It's like, this town is awesome, great little city, and then there's Walmart. It's like its own little. I don't know. It's weird. One time, me and female officer that still employed and love her to death, we were at Walmart looking for a shoplifter that ran outside. And there was this, you could see the storm coming, back towards the west. We're walking in the parking lot, looking. And I look back over at her, and her hair is standing straight up, like static. I said, we gotta go.
Yeah,
run.
Get hit by lightning.
Wow, that lightning struck right in there. I was like, holy cow. I was like, she's like, what? I was like, your hair was standing up like one of those
little Tesla machines.
Yeah. I was like, holy cow. I was like, thank goodness you were here. You kept us from getting struck.
That's funny.
It was wild. I never seen anything like that, but it was crazy stuff.
One of the funnier ones that didn't involve the police department one time. You guys know, and we've all got this strange relationship with fire and rescue, and those guys they're just wired different, Those are the guys. If you guys listening run across them and you don't know that they're with fire and rescue, they'll tell you. But
within the first 3 seconds.
Yeah. But they're the ones with the radios on, way too loud going through the store and, stuff like that. And they love to listen to their radio traffic, on their RDOs or whatever. And, we had a call out at Bush Elementary, and one of the staff called and said, hey, we've, need some help. Said we've got, 3 kittens that have gotten down the storm drain, and we don't have the equipment to be able to unbolt it, to be able to take the grate off to get them out. We could reach them, but we just don't have the equipment to do it. And I said, well, let me give a call to, the chief out there at Bushfire and see if they can get somebody to come over and help you. So I called him up, and because usually stuff like that, the cat and tree stuff, we'll make phone calls. We won't give that out as radio traffic, right away. We don't want to, set the world on fire just because, something that's really not an emergency, but somebody needs assistance. So I called the chief, or I forget who it was that responded, and they said, yeah. I said, we can get the equipment. We'll go out there. He said, go ahead and drop tones and give that out over the radio.
Okay.
There's my eye roll for all you listeners out there.
Yeah.
They felt it. They saw it.
And so I did, and so I give it out, and I said, there's 3 kittens that are stuck in the storm drain. They need equipment to be able to get the grate off. It's Bush Elementary there in the pickup lane. So literally 30 seconds after I give that call out, I get a call from the chief of the rescue squad. Don't you think that the rescue would have been paged out to that first? What are you talking about? I mean, I understand it's technically confined space, but he's like, no, you got 3 kids in a storm drain out there. We need to be going out there.
He misheard
we need to be. And I was like, no, 3 kittens.
Yeah. Meow.
Baby cats.
Meow, meow, meow.
and you could just hear the air go out of him when I tell him. He was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I got the
He was amped up to rip you a new one too.
Yeah, he was, because they love that.
Oh, yeah.
But I got the benefit of hearing later through his daughter that his wife looked at him and said, "Will you just let Shannon do his job?"
Nah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Good.
That reminded me though of a story where a dispatcher got to actually come to my rescue it was at McDonald's. It was he's not working there anymore, but Austin. And not really to my rescue, but I didn't have anything else to do. A car had hit a Coyote on the interstate and got off at that exit at the McDonald's. And it's like shift change, but I was like, yeah, I got to see this because it was stuck in the grill of the car.
I remember that one, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
So I get there, I was like, well, I'll go, pull it out and throw it off in the woods or whatever. No, I get there and it's still alive.
Oh, no.
Not only is it still alive, but it is very pissed off.
I'd say. It doesn't worse than pissed off hit.
Yeah.
Stuck in a grill.
Because by that point, I was supervising that shift. Mm-hmm. And Austin was like, "You want me to go get it?" I said, it's not that busy. Go get it.
I'm glad. Because we called animal control, and they were like, they asked what the situation was, and I was like, nope. Good luck, Godspeed.
Yeah, wow.
And so I was like, all right, so I don't have anything. So I ended up, Austin got there, and he's like, well, we could throw it in the back of my truck. He had one of those tonneau covers, and I was like, that's a good idea. We'll do that. But how do we get it out? Because I ain't touching this thing. Mm. And so I ended up taking the string off of my stop sticks, making a noose out of it, running it through. They were doing construction work on the McDonald's, so I stole a piece of PVC pipe, rammed the noose through as a pole, hooked it around the Coyote, jerked him out, and then we chucked him into the back of Austin's truck. So we're looking at it, and I was like, well, it kind of acts like it's not doing so well, so maybe it'll just die. So we close it up. Close up the tailgate. It's it hunched up in the back of one of the corners, and I was like, well, I'll go get his information, and you just hang out, and we'll figure out. It was too close to put it out of. I couldn't dispatch it there in the parking lot of McDonald's.
Couldn't shoot up that guy's grill either.
No,
And you all would have missed because we already know about groundhogs.
Yeah. Point blank, I might have been all right. Maybe. So I go get the rest of the information and all that, and, everybody's sitting there amazed at what they just saw. Because it was...
Your genius of...
My MacGyver skills.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I was like, well... Got all his information and got him back on the road, and he's out. So I said, well, now what do we do? And Austin's like, I don't know. I was like, well, it's in your truck. It's your problem.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'm off. My shift's over. I gotta go.
So I was like, well, maybe we can get it out and just throw it over in the woods. Maybe it's dead by now. Mm-hmm. So we open it up. Oh, no, it's not dead. It's just pacing in circles in the back of his truck.
Oh, no.
So we close it back up, and Austin's like, I got an idea. And I said, okay. He said, we can release it over here on the hill going up to the church, and maybe it'll just, go on. So we open the tailgate and we run away. It won't come out. It won't come out at all. So Austin ends up, in his genius, throws it in reverse, hits about 30 miles an hour, and slams on the brakes. Shoots that coyote straight out of there. It hits its feet running, though.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if you'd have got bit, if you would have turned into like a, what would that be called? Like a were-coyote? I don't know. That'd be funny.
Maybe I did.
Man, I've seen, it is impossible to be in your all's mind on some of the crazy calls that you give us and then not hear like the radio silence for a minute. You're like, I got to know what these idiots are out there doing with this. I could imagine, because you're like, come back and tell us what happened.
Well, I mean, you can't get out on a call and it be something simple that you've got to try and solve it. I mean, that's...
Or even more, like, you've not heard anything from the PD. No, you've not given out, you've not dispatched anything. And then you hear, well, that's... Roby was notorious for just saying, "Oh, that's stupid looking," or something out on the radio.
Something that we saw, because we'd be following each other.
Yeah. Well, did you see that? Well, what'd y'all say? I know it's.
Well, and so night shift. We've talked about this quite a bit. Was a lot more lax on the radio traffic than day shift was, because all the brass wasn't out to smack your pee for saying something you shouldn't have.
The professionalism usually dropped.
Well, it was more plain language. More.
Yeah. It's like, like I was saying earlier, if I want something repeated, instead of saying the 10 code, I'd say, can I get that one more again? Or, it would pop off and be like, or you'd say, well, I didn't enjoy that. And he'd say something like, I was against it from the beginning.
I was against it, never was for it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Or you'd get, I think my favorite phrase, and it's like Morse code. But I think my favorite phrase that ever came out of dispatch is, ma'am, 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 ma'am. Or somebody like Paul. Paul would get fired up on somebody. Yeah. Be like, what'd they say? Oh, I just need to get fired up. You're like, there's no reason to get that torqued up over that, was there? No. But, they're all right. That'd be all right. Yeah.
It's funny. We had some good time, man. I've been in there one time, and there was a storm coming through. I guess it might have been a little tornado or something that kind of hit out at Levi Jackson. One night when me and Hump was working, me and Doug were working. I can't remember who I was out, but I was in dispatch, and and that dang that siren going off when you're in the back lot there is deafening. Well, some reason they were trying to get the siren on, turn it on. Like, we had tornado warning to hit. You need to get it out there. And some reason it just would not hit. So they were over there panicking on that. And Doug was out at Levi Jackson. I guess he had an uncle. Somebody was out there camping, and he was in the middle of it. He was like spinning around out there, like went off the Oz or something. I don't know where he went. I was like, he's like, they were over there trying to get the thing on to warn everybody, like, hey, tornado. Hey, I'm in a tornado. freaked out. I'm like, guys, I don't know what to do right now. But it was just weird to see, like, when stuff didn't work. Oh, man. Because the job, and that's another job that nobody really knows is dispatch has got to warn. They're giving out storm, like, hey, severe storm's coming. Here's where, and that's freaky too, because they're stuck in there, which I don't know if it's tornado proof in there or not, but I know they have to set off the siren and all that stuff in there. It's freaky in there when that happens. I've been in there. It's wild stuff goes on.
Dispatch is also the first person you should call when your electric goes out.
Apparently that's happening.
That's a thing. Everybody, when your electric goes out, if you fail, one of the craziest things they ever did, London Utilities, after hours, they roll their phones to dispatch. Mm-hmm. So if somebody calls in and and the intended purpose is that if they have a water leak or something like that, they can call. We can set off the pager for whoever's the on call, and they can go take care of it. What happens is I get to argue with somebody who swears up and down that they paid their water bill on time.
Right.
Yes.
And now their water's off, and I
love it.
Ain't nothing I can do for you, son.
Yeah. I would love to be able to help you, but I am unable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we get called, dispatched. I'm seriously over to turning somebody's electric on, starting pilot lights for people.
But I don't.
I didn't mind it.
No, I don't mind that. And it's
getting possums out of people's houses. I did mind that because or snakes. Gosh, money. They get a kick out. I think dispatch got a kick out of it. If a snake was, I don't know if they just knew I was scared or something, but it'd be like, hey.
I've got a good story that I'll let Jake tell it because Jake's terrified of snakes.
One time, these people come from Manchester or somewhere, and this snake had ridden across. I mean, a big old long black, some kind of anaconda. I don't know, king cobra. They're all the same to me. But dispatch gives out. They're like, hey, these people called. They've got a snake in there. They've seen it pop its little head out in the hood. It's like looked at like where the windshield wiper. It's like looked at them, and I'm like, oh. I remember thinking I was like at Kroger, and I was like, I can't not answer this. And sure enough, we get there, and I'm thinking maybe like a little garter snake that's maybe 6 inches long or something.
Yeah.
No. Well, this thing, when we finally get it out of there, it's as long as that car.
Jeez.
I've never been more. I jumped in the car and being chasing around. I can dispatch that like a hatchet out of his car. I was like, I don't know if you're supposed to have that. His exact words were that's just a agricultural tool. I was like, hey, good. That's a good call.
Who was that?
Ben.
Oh, man.
We had some fun. I can't wait. One day, hopefully, I don't know. I've not asked the new guys or any active guys to come on yet. I don't know if they can.
Right now, and I doubt. I don't know that the administration would let them come on.
But we've had some fun, and there's so many stories, and I know he would love to tell.
There's a lot of stories that I would like to tell with him here so that I can make fun of him.
Oh, yeah.
But I hate to make fun of him behind his back. Yeah. I will, but I hate to.
Well, it's hard, and these are kind of some minor infractions, so I don't think it'll do anything major, but working the radio the night that he called in, it had been snowing and stuff. And TC was his sergeant.
Are you sure? Is this the night it snowed?
Yeah.
Is it when he wrecked an AR Dyke?
No, this wasn't the AR Dyke. This was on McCorder, right at the end of Slate Lick.
Oh, this one
where the little pawn shop is right there.
Yeah.
And they were up there looking for somebody or looking for a vehicle or something. And of course, it didn't pan out. There wasn't anybody around by the time they got over there. And he's been over here for like 5 minutes at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was trying to turn around, or whatever, but he just keys up and goes, "I wrecked."
He's funny.
And of course, and so we're trying to figure out, what do we need to do? We need to send a wrecker out or whatever. And I guess TC helped him out of the driver's seat and got in himself and drove it out of the ditch.
That's funny.
That is.
Those cars were all drive. My favorite, them guys. Listen, snow. They try, snow at shift change. When guys were trying to get to work was tough.
Mm.
But we were good with getting the overtime, being like, you guys stay put because the salt trucks will get out there and take care of that in about 20 minutes to an hour. You can get, unless it's a monster snow, most of the major, until these cold snaps like this. But
if you had ground clearance, though, and most of aside from the rear-wheel drive Crown Vics we had,
those things would still go because we had so much stuff in the trunks of them things.
Well,
they
that's
were
true.
Unbelievable.
But if you had it with the all-wheel drives, as long as you had ground clearance and were pushing snow, they would go.
Chargers didn't have it that good.
They didn't have they didn't have the ground clearance they needed.
But they were all-wheel drive. But they like to get high-centered easy.
Mm-hmm.
But they're coming over. We're like, "No, we're good." And then you hear, "Well, we've wrecked over here," or "I'm stuck." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like if they would just waited a hot second, they'd have been fine. But it was
who was it? Was it Jim Tom that stepped out of his cruiser one time and then down into the ditch?
Yeah,
it was piled full of snow, and he just stepped out.
I think he may have got hurt on that one for a hot.
I think he did.
A little bit.
Maybe
one of them he got hurt on. But
it's funny. I wish he would come on, but
we got.
He's antisocial these days.
Yeah, I've tried. I begged. Maybe if we put enough guilt on him, he'll come out.
If I buy him a pop, he might come.
Yeah, he might do that.
I think you guys in dispatch and just heroes.
You don't get enough respect. They really don't. And we on the police side, I know there's a lot of times that we badmouth you and being like, well, why do they, you get too much information when you don't want it or not enough when you want it.
Giving back.
But that's the thing with police officers. If we're not complaining about something, we're not working. It's not, we're not breathing. So, but dispatchers don't get enough respect, and they deserve to be in the line of first responders. There's definitely a special place in my heart for dispatchers. A good dispatcher, anyways. Some of them, there's a special place for them somewhere. No.
Yeah, somewhere else.
Yeah.
No, just it's one of those things that there are a lot of people who, every year they're championing that cause, trying to get dispatchers recognized as first responders and stuff like that. But if you talk to the ones who just, they do the job because they love it. They love their community. They want to serve. They could care less. We know who we are. Right. It's one of those things where you're
not doing it for that anyways.
You're confident in who you are and what your contribution is. You don't need
the pat on the back.
Yeah.
But it's nice when you can. And I mean, for me to be able to tell you guys how much I appreciated y'all through my career and still, I still involved a little bit in a different capacity, but I don't rely on dispatch as much, but I have called and needed, and
I
they've been right there.
To call. When I got out, it was like my goal. I was like, I'm not calling dispatch. Like I'm not.
I wouldn't call dispatch when I worked at dispatch. So I'd see something happening on the side of the road, and I'm like, that looks god awful. Yeah. Somebody ought to call about that.
Yeah, be like,
I gotta leave these
there's
guys
a suspicious man walking down the street.
How many? I wonder how many calls they've taken to get today on a snow day and on a Friday. Hey, I'm gonna leave them alone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna drive around this wreck right quick and just keep going. They're good.
You've got some that do, and then some that don't. They'll be listening to the radio, and they'll still call. Hey, what's my boys got going on out there? you're listening to radio, obviously, because you're calling me about what's going on.
What's going on?
You know, where you be in the middle of some hot call or something, and you got to stop and explain to somebody. More
frustrating or whatever, I'm sure, than be like, hey, what? A call up there. Hey, what's going on down here? I saw 3 fire trucks and city police. What they got?
Whole lot of none yet.
Chief, just turn on your dang radio. You'd find out.
Yeah, exactly.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Well, I can watch and see, okay, who's going by? Yeah. Yep, 46.
Yeah, 46.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if squad's going out. If squad's going out if rescue squad's going out by themselves, is it probably drowning out at the lake? Something like that, if it's just them. Fire and rescue's going out. You're like,
it's a wreck.
It's a wreck. Yeah. So it's just different. You can kind of tell anymore. But all them years, everybody thought I knew like, hey, an ambulance drove by my house. Well, you're on the way to the hospital.
Yeah.
There's a good. Do you know what's going on? I'm like, well, the hospital moved from up on, off 9th Street to just past your house now. I'd say they're going to the hospital. I don't know.
Yeah. That's fun. Quite often.
Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. So.
Well, we're about out of time. Have you got another good one that you want to close us out with?
This one, it's probably not quite as hilarious as it is. It was just it was funny in the way that, it's like this stuff never happens.
Right.
Kind of call. And it was, I think the funniest thing about it was, if it hadn't have been for somebody trying to go the wrong way on the interstate, that they ended and bailing out of their car, then the one-legged unit that was in pursuit that wasn't even supposed to be out of the office ends up with the 1015. Yeah. Because we had, and we used to have, they don't have it there anymore. I'm jealous, but, we used to have alarm monitoring system in there.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And,
they don't have that anymore?
They don't have it anymore. And, so they had, most of the banks around were tied into it, some private residences, things like that. And you'd have the thing go off periodically, call them up. Everything's fine. Okay. So, and of course, we always had the little song and dance in the city with the banks, about, go out and I have the placard up at the drive-thru and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we get a call from, or we get the alarm first and then the call from Fort Bank over at 1006 and 192. And they've actually been robbed. There's a woman comes through the drive-thru with a gun in a minivan, blue minivan, and she has robbed them.
Yep.
Okay.
Through the drive-thru.
Through the drive-thru. Now, amazing. She had...
she's not done.
She's not done. So we're working that and we're doing everything we can do, get everybody there, get all the information we can get because, we're trying to get units in the area, all that. So in the middle of doing that, the alarm panel goes off again. And I'm like, somebody's bumped the thing. And I look over at it and it's Cumberland Valley Bank over in the shopping center.
On the same end of town.
On the same end of town, half a mile down. So we're getting ready to call them and they actually call us in the before we can even call them. They've actually been robbed by a woman in a blue minivan through the drive-thru.
See, that amazes me right there. I would be hard pressed to be robbed through a drive-thru. Be like, I'm going to shoot you. I step to the right. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No.
But it was what it was.
Yeah.
And so while just about the time units are starting to get in the area of Fort Bank, now we're giving out Cumberland Valley.
I had came from maybe right here we're at Station 2. I feel like I was here, for whatever reason. And I was coming, on 192. I was decently close when the second comes out. So I'm like, they're coming towards me. I'm like, the way it's going, I'm like, I'm going to meet them
that way.
And then I didn't meet the vehicle, so I turned up Wheatley Street. And I think some other units were like, it's got to be, because there's another bank right there. We're like, they're going to hit. I think it was, what's that, Fifth and Third, whatever.
First Trust.
First Trust.
Yeah.
Truist now, too, whatever it was back then.
Yeah.
But Truist was the next one
in line
right there. I'm like, they're coming right here. I've got them. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, though.
So then, and of course we got every available unit is, out there just buzzing around all over the place. And poor Bert was on light duty. That was when he messed his knee up.
Yeah.
And he was confined to the PD. And with this one, he couldn't help it. So he jumps in the car and he's going to go help look. And, he gets over that way and, he calls out that he's over around Parker, coming from that way. And, so about that time, we start getting calls that a blue minivan has tried to get on the northbound or the southbound exit ramp going north. And so we give that out and she wheels around and ends up turning down St. Joe Lane. And when she does, Bert's coming the other way. And, cause by the time we gave that part of it out, he started heading over that way. And instead of trying to blow by him or going out by the hospital where you got a little running room, she decides she's going to dump it behind the church there over the hill.
Oh, yeah.
Well, once you do that, there's nothing but a circle.
Yeah.
And when she gets down below the church, she bails out and runs off. And of course, the only person to get in foot pursuit is the one guy that's not even supposed to be out of the office.
Yes. And I remember Derek saying, he said, I think you might be the first unit. Talking to him, he said, you might be the first unit that ever gets written up and an award at the same time.
Yeah, he sure did. And what's even more remarkable, well, the other unit involved that helped him out get, maybe help get her back up or whatever, was Holiday. And it was his last day.
That's right.
Ever.
Yeah.
He was retiring like that next day or two. I mean, I was like, you got a guy that's going out the door
and again,
retired.
Yeah.
And it's somebody with a one-legged officer running, and the two that catch him were like,
And
because I swear I was still stuck down there. I was like, what's the chances? By the time I get down there, they're already 10, 15. They've already rested. And I'm like, wow.
And if that call couldn't have gotten any crazier, in the middle of all that going on, I get a call from this lady. She's in a panic, and she's out in the county, right around Reed Valley and Maple Grove Road, and she's saying that somebody's stolen her car and they've kicked her out of her vehicle. She was basically carjacked.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what happened? She said, well, I was at St. Joseph Hospital, and this lady said that she needed a ride. So I gave her a ride, and we got out here at the end of Reed Valley, and she pulls a gun on me and forces me out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what's the description on the vehicle? Well, it's a blue minivan.
Yeah.
same blue minivan.
Same blue minivan. So the lady that was doing the armed robberies
that
at
never
the two banks had carjacked somebody and was using somebody else's vehicle to do it.
Listen, that was
you never get to solve two crimes at once like that ever. It never falls into place like that.
Yeah.
that was a wild.
That
was
is
a wild
awesome,
call.
Yeah.
That's a wild
And a good
call.
catch. I mean, that was a
Yeah, that's fun.
quality action on those units.
I've seen. Yeah, that's
And
a
good
rarity.
dispatching.
Yeah.
Get them in their area at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and like I said, people don't understand how difficult that is to do quickly.
It's a lot of juggling and
Yeah.
a lot of quick. Yeah, it was always hard for me, like when we would have something on the interstate, because you got to sit there, you got to stop and think, okay, what's my best route? They're going, which way do I need to go to head them off, and not because you can't just jump on the interstate and try and catch them at Mach 30 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it was funny. You'd be like, why is dispatch giving us this call coming southbound at the 55-mile marker and we're at
it's
the
going to make it
38
to us.
or the 40?
Yeah, it's going to make it.
By
to
the
us.
time
Yeah.
we could get somebody out there.
It was we were the next in line, or it would be like, I'm sure the juggling act. Okay, they're at the 44. Let's just go ahead and call Corbin and post.
Yeah.
Because there ain't no way to see.
Unless they get off the ramp, or, get on the exit ramp.
They might give it to us. That would be like, we got a unit right at the 38 mile mark or something, and you just get lucky. Yeah. But you had to do some calculations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Figure out where.
Yeah.
All right. I know this group, they're all in the back lot right now. They're back there.
Got to do some quick geometry.
Or you look out. And you're looking, the entire police department's right here in dispatch eating popcorn.
Yeah,
I want to give it.
This is the room clear.
That did happen quite frequently. They'd get the call, they'd look over their shoulder and say, "Let me give this out." Yeah, somebody start walking out the.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
you're trying to cover the.
Yeah, the
fastest way to clear it is like. Rockcastle or SO or Corbin's in pursuit. Boom, you're gone.
Yeah.
That's a fast way to clear out anywhere. So yeah. Oh, this has been fun. We got to do this more.
Yeah. Definitely glad to have you. Glad to catch up. It's been way too long.
We need to. Hopefully, I'm glad you didn't ask me to go to a football game this year because I probably would have. Not wanted to, and you endured.
I gave my tickets up.
No.
I knew what was coming.
We'll definitely go again sometime when they're good. But we've had some fun. It's a joy to have you on, and you're always welcome.
Yep.
I want to do a lot. We've talked about this several times, but
people are going to quit. Get tired of listening to us talk about it. Just do it.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you there from that perspective, too, because that'd be a fun way to be like, no, you idiot. That's not how it went. Let me tell you how it really is. So it'd be fun. But thanks for being on. It's been fun.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Catch us on the next episode.